Hello and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 24th of February 2025. Wow, it's Gary here again. What is this like? What literally is this like? You couldn't, do you know what? I was actually going to say that you couldn't make it up, but you actually could with this club, really, when you think about it, especially over the last few years here. And really, truly, what could have been a really distinctive week for the club, we Rangers it. Is that a thing that we should start to say now, like we always seem to do these days? So let's let's chronicle this for a wee bit. And this is just this week. So we start the week on a bit of a kind of a meh kind of viewpoint there. We get the Tynecastle result. It wasn't a good performance at all, but we'll take any sort of result away from home the way that we've been performing away from home these days. And then we have the Patrick Stewart video, which I personally liked. I thought that it was good. I thought it was talking a lot about the business side. He didn't say we're going to sack Philippe Clement, and I think that's why there was maybe a bit of a negative reaction to that. And then but overall, good message, I thought. And then after that, that mob gets papped out of Europe. And while I don't pay that much attention, it's nice to see when they're failing a wee bit because it doesn't happen very often these days. And then we get the announcement, I think it was that day or the next again day, about the potential investment coming from the San Francisco 49ers organization. Then what's happening? Are we on the upslope? Maybe, maybe. Then Saturday morning, that mob gets beat by Diet, that mob, and we have an opportunity to just continue momentum. Not to say we're going to win the league or anything like that, but bring it down to 10 points and then think about taking it beyond the split in the season. It's the best we can do for right now. And then we get that performance on Saturday afternoon, which, of course, as you know by now, prompted the action to remove Philippe Clement from his role as manager. And do you know what? One of the key things that he had for this season was our home record is immense, our away record is something that we need to look at. And everybody could see that. Obviously, the results determined exactly that was the case. You took that away from us, Philippe, over the last 3 weeks here, or last 2 weeks, I guess it was really just over 2 weeks anyway, where you had that abomination, that disgusting result against Queen's Park, which was a wee bit of an anomaly in terms of possession and chances and such. We have a very poor performance, as I mentioned, at Tynecastle. And then when we had an opportunity to continue on the uptick, we absolutely failed to a man, including the coaching staff, including everything connected with the club. And that then says, so you've taken that home record off of the table as a we know what we're doing here, we just have to fix it away from home, and that cost you your job, my friend. Unfortunately, as I say, you just couldn't make it up. But as soon as you put Rangers Football Club into the mix, you just realise that that's how we are rolling these days. So since Steven Gerrard left us, we've had two 1 year managers and one 16, 15, 16, 17 month manager. That kind of tells its own story right there. I've went on this podcast ad nauseum about any organisation in any industry in the world can't sustain that type and style of change and one of the most crucial operating roles within the business. We're talking obviously about the manager here. It could be any type and style of position in the business there. And if I could say it another way, we're looking for our fourth permanent manager since November 2021. Our fourth permanent manager since 2021, since November 2021. That's just beyond ridiculous. Now, Philippe Clement inherited a mess, continued to have to manage and work within that mess, having to move out of Ibrox, for example, having to reduce the wage bill in the squad, having to put up with changes in leadership, the CEO leaving, a new CEO coming in. He certainly didn't have his troubles to seek, but he knows he's well enough tenured in the industry to know that you just need to get results on the pitch by hook or by crook. The team wasn't playing well, the team wasn't playing attractive football, and it looked like he was just bereft of ideas. And then when you see that performance, which I'll get to very quickly here in a second, when you see that performance against St Mirren on the weekend, another bad record broken or created by this squad of players and by this management team, and he just couldn't do what he needed to do to get himself turned around. I don't think that having English as a second language helped him out, although he was very fluent. I just don't think he interviewed very well. It was quite entertaining, but not back to Steven Gerrard times. And Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was a bit of a waste of time coming to the press conferences, and Michael Beale was just a bit of a waste of time overall. At least Gio won a trophy and took us to a European final. Michael Beale set us back so far, and Philippe Clement unfortunately had to come in and try and pick that up. And I think really truly it's ultimately, if you think about it here, what are we at? The 24th of February, obviously, that we are now, we're almost about a year from when we had that dramatic decline and the dodgy results, Motherwell, Ross County, Dundee, to mention a few last season. At one point, we're dreaming of winning a treble. The next point, we only win the League Cup and go forward. Now, the League Cup's not something to be scoffed at. It took us 10 years to regain that cup there, but the writing's been on the wall. Okay, get to the end of the season, get his own players in, continue to do what we need to do. And it just, James Bisgrove leaving, the Hampden debacle, the team just being completely disillusioned. I still struggle that if the club are having challenges, that how that translates to the pitch, to the players just being completely apathetic and completely unknowing of what their roles are. But that's why probably I'm not in football management, because I just don't understand that, and it's obviously not that easy to fix it, or someone would have by now. So it's a shame, but that's what happens. Then we wake up to the news today. This is only 6 days I've covered, folks. Then we wake up to the news today that we have appointed Barry Ferguson and his backroom staff. So I'm going to just read out the first part of this announcement. You've probably read it 100 times, and I'll give you my thoughts. Rangers Football Club can today announce Hall of Fame member and former club captain Barry Ferguson is to become head coach of our men's first team until the end of the season. Ferguson, who won 5 league titles, 5 Scottish Cups and 5 League Cups across 2 spells at Ibrox, will be joined by coaches Isaman Shirai, who of course you know just came in last month as the assistant to Philippe Clement. Like, truly, I wonder what he thinks is going on. All of a sudden, everyone he knows and has only known, by the way, for about a month or so is gone, and all these other guys who come in with very thick Scottish accents are coming in. This guy, I don't know if it's a hiding to nothing, or maybe it might be a match made in heaven, who knows. But anyway, coaches Isamand Shirai, Neil McCann, Billy Dodds and Alan McGregor. As confirmed yesterday, Philippe Clement is leaving the club. In addition, Alex Rae, Colin Stewart and Stephen van der Hayden are also departing. Rangers FC would like to thank Philippe, Alex, Colin and Stefan for their contribution and commitment. They will always be welcome at the club. Now, this is interesting because when Alex Rae was appointed to the backroom staff, Philippe Clement had said in the beginning, we need to get some Scottish presence. We need to get someone who truly knows the club. Alex Rae came in, and we thought that would be great. Bit of a hard player, bit of a hard coach, bit of a hard man sort of thing. And it just never seemed to materialise, did it? Colin Stewart was obviously a goalkeeping coach for around 10 years or so. And my understanding is he was also the set piece coach, which then kind of makes it a wee bit of a no-brainer that he would have to leave the club, since their set pieces are absolutely rotten. And I didn't know much about Stefan van der Hayden, so we'll see what that looks like. Just another upheaval in this mental season that we are having. So in terms of Barry Ferguson, cards on the table. He is my favourite Rangers player. In my whole time watching Rangers over 40 years now, or around about 40 years now, he's been my favourite player. I wear number 6 when I'm playing football for Barry Ferguson as a bit of an homage to Barry Ferguson. And I don't mind telling anyone that and I've told him that he's my favourite player as well, in a bit of a gushy, oh, you're my favourite player. And he was kind of like, aye, right, you are, cool, mate. So, I've messaged him and Neil McCann. I have their contact details, and I messaged both of them to wish them all the very best on behalf of myself personally and behalf of NARSA too. But in terms of Barry's credentials as a manager, I was chatting with a pal of mine last night at a football game, and we were just musing about, what would happen. Is Ferguson even a possibility? And I says, I don't even think he's been coaching. I know he's been doing his punditry. I think he's on Go Radio. I'm not familiar with all the outlets back home now. He does a spot in the Daily Record and such, but I don't think he's been actually on the pitch. Now, is that required? I don't know. Is that important for right now? I'm not 100% sure. I know one thing that, he's Rangers through and through. He says some things that are quite controversial that we kind of don't like sometimes, or we don't want to hear, maybe is a better way to put it. It's his opinion. He doesn't shirk from doing that, and I think that's a good thing. We had a good conversation just before the final in Seville back in 2022, and I was basically just asking him what was missing from that, from the times when he was there to the times now, and it was just basically he summarised it by saying that we just cared more. Like we understood what it meant to the fans, we understood what it meant to us, and we needed. That we had that connection with the club, and we needed to make sure that we put our best foot forward to give ourselves the best opportunity to succeed. So if he gets a chance to do that, that's great. He has, of course, had managerial spells at Clyde, at Kelty Hearts, and at Alloa, so part-time football there, as well as you'll probably remember he was a caretaker at Blackpool as well. I think he actually kept him. Did he keep them in the Premiership? Keep him in the Championship? I think it was at the time. I can't remember. Forgive me, I didn't do any research on that before, but he's been a manager, so he knows it. He knows the club. He knows the people in the club. Obviously, he is an ambassador, an official, formal ambassador for the club too. And we almost got him to come to the convention this year. I wonder if this would have completely usurped that anyway. Now that it all happened, and we would have had to going back to the drawing board. But yeah, congratulations, good luck to Barry, to Neil, to Billy, and to Alan. And if there's ever anything that you need from NARSA, your friends are over here, and we'll do everything we can to support you while you are in charge. The one thing I would say, not to be negative, as regular listeners will know, that that's not really my style, but very rarely, if ever, do interim managers work in terms of long-term appointments. I think the last one I kind of remember having a bit of a genuine bounce was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer down at Man United. They kind of borrowed him from Moldy, and then, or Mold, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Forgive me if I got it wrong. And then he had such a tremendous input. They gave him a 3-year deal, and then he did okay in the beginning, and then it kind of fell away. But I don't think that would be Barry and team's mandate. I think their mandate is restore some pride back into the club, G up the players as much as you can for the last 13 or however many games it is, if he managed to get through against Fenerbahce later this month, or sorry, next month, that is, and see how it goes. But my favourite player, I would be more than open to him being my favourite manager as we go forward, and I hope that he does what needs to be done to give us something to look forward to as we move forward here. Alrighty, that's a very long introduction because we had a whirlwind of a week there. Onto the game segment. The only game was Saturday's absolutely unbelievably bad 2-0 performance at home. 2-0 defeat, that is, to St Mirren from, of course, the most beautiful town in Europe. And where it was absolutely awful, genuinely awful from the beginning to the end. After getting that 4 times, that mob have dropped points this season, and once we've won our immediate next game. 4 times they've dropped points, once we've won the immediate next game, and we're at home, and it's St Mirren. And St Mirren have now beat us in Boxing Day, of course, and then beat us there. It's just absolutely, the fans were up for it at the beginning. There was a good atmosphere there, and the team just couldn't take the opportunity to make things a wee bit interesting. It's just another absolute disaster. I don't think this is connected, but I'm going to be very open about it here. That's 2 home games in a row that NARSA and NARSA 2025 have been advertised on the pitch side LED displays, and twice we have got beaten. Now, let me just tell you the 2 teams in case you had forgotten there or tried to blank it out your memory. One of them was Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup, and the other one was St Mirren. So twice we've been beat at Ibrox in a row. We haven't scored a goal, and we got beat by Queen's Park, and we got beat by St Mirren. I requested that the club don't put don't put us back on. We're scheduled to go on another twice, I believe. I don't think there's much point. Sports fan, we've got this superstition thing going on. It's just been an absolute disaster. The entire team, honestly, folks, the entire team were terrible. From Butland fluffing out a kick again, then having to make a couple of saves again, The whole team were just garbage from tip to toe. And I don't know how you can explain that. I mean, having a dip in a game where three or four or five, maybe six players are having a nightmare, there's usually, well, you know what, he played well, he did his best, or whatever. I think in terms of endeavour, Nico Raskin put himself about and did his best, but he still had a terrible game, but at least he tried. Igaman gets a straight red card overturned. It was a dire first half. We lose the first goal after Inciala tripped himself in 52nd minute. Dessers should have had a penalty for a clear pull, but it wasn't even looked at. Of course it wasn't even looked at. And then the second goal, what was that, like 70 odd minutes? Where Enciala had another absolute nightmare. You don't let the ball bounce. Now, I understand for young players, there's a learning curve and there's dips and stuff that comes in for young players. But see the basic mistakes that we make as a team, as a club, you learn that from a very, very young age. So how do you say, oh, the guy's only 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever the age is? How do you say that? And then you see the most basic of errors where I would be standing on the side saying, don't let it bounce. Don't let it bounce, don't let it bounce. Everybody can see it. Just absolute schoolboy, literal schoolboy errors in defence. Just awful goals to lose. And then there's a handball that wasn't even looked at in their penalty box. And you're seeing a theme here about not looking at anything again. There's an exodus by the fans. So even the booing at the end for Philippe Clement wasn't quite as impactful. It was kind of muted, wasn't it? Because there's only about 18 people left at Ibrox at the end of the game. And I mean, obviously the last time he gets an opportunity to talk as an official representative of the club. In the post-match press conference, Philippe Clement said, I didn't see that coming. Oh, really? Right. Okay. How could you not see that coming? Things were getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. We have a performance like that in us. Maybe not quite as bad as that. I don't think anybody gets over a 2 or a 3 in terms of out of 10 in terms of the performance. But to say he didn't see it coming, I think I know what he meant in terms of I didn't think I seen something as bad as that coming, but everyone else seen a performance and certainly a result like that coming. And that's not me being, smart after the fact. It's just a fact that you could have seen a performance like that. So yeah, we've blown it at Ibrox. We've blown the league again. We're a laughing stock in terms of the football. We had an opportunity to actually genuinely have an uptick from, I think it was actually Patrick's video went out on Wednesday, wasn't it? So from Wednesday to Saturday, Wednesday we have a solid message out of Europe, investment announcement. They get beat and we flop, absolutely flop. That's 4 days, folks. And then on the 5th day we fire the manager. On the 6th day we appoint a new management team. Oh my god. So the positives from this game, the final whistle, I think that was the most positive thing that happened there. The negatives, literally every single thing about this performance was negative. And genuinely, folks, I'm not being sensationalist when I say this. That was as bad a full team performance as I can remember. There was nothing good whatsoever from anyone, and you could see that the squad had just, they were confused. They just given up and they didn't have a clue what they were doing at all over the course of the game. In terms of the stats, 65% possession, 11 shots on goal, 3 on target, 0 goals versus 8 shots on goal and 6 on target. St Mirren outshot us by 100% of the shots at Ibrox. That's how bad that was. On the referee watch, Kevin Clancy did Kevin Clancy things, I think is probably the best way to say it. He could not get his red card out quick enough for Igaman, could he? And that was testimony to Kevin Clancy doing Kevin Clancy things, but genuinely kudos to him. Fair play for overturning it. He probably stood there and thought, right, okay, my man Walsh tried this a couple of weeks ago and he got slated for it. I better not do it. And a genuine fair play to him for doing it, because he had a bird's eye view of the incident. Got his red card out lightning fast. Probably gave himself a burn of some description because it was so fast getting it out. But he overturns it. The linesman had shown offsides that weren't offsides, and the VAR didn't check the things they were supposed to check. I certainly didn't take time to check the things they were supposed to check. So I think overall they're getting a 4 out of 10 for that. Not their fault that we got beat, but kinda maybe. You know, we almost got a red card. Igaman got put off his game with getting the yellow and had to be subbed run about the early parts of the second half, if I remember correctly. And the linesman and the VAR didn't do as much favours. Actually, maybe a force generous now that I think about it. Anyway, two games this week. Barry Ferguson's dugout debut at Kilmarnock on Wednesday the 26th, and that's a 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff, 8 p.m. in the UK. It will be a spectacle of some description. As I say, interim managers very rarely, turn out as desired. And we had, I remember way back in the day, we had Ian Durrant in for one game. I think it was a Scottish Cup game against Dunfermline, which we lost. Stephen Davis was in for a couple of games. We lost one, we won one. Let's not put too much pressure on Barry and the team to get a result down there, especially with the way the team are playing for right now. And then his home debut in the dugout this Saturday, the 1st of March, and that's a 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. Another Saturday, 3 p.m. UK kickoff for us. These guys, I mean, what are these guys really genuinely playing for? Playing for the future, playing for the opportunity of a good move at some point in the future, playing for their opportunity to stay at the club in some capacity. And I'm including everybody in this. I'm including the leadership, I'm including the coaching staff, I'm including the players in that. This week, I tell you what, folks, genuinely on Saturday, and I don't ever say this, I watch every single Rangers game, but I thought after the game on Saturday, I'm not going to pay for this game on Wednesday. It's about 18, 19, Canadian dollars, sorry, Canadian dollars. It's Canada I live in. And it's about 18 or 19 Canadian dollars. And I thought, I'm not going to watch it. Chloe is back home, so I typically would walk around and watch it with her. And I thought, I'm just going to watch it on text. I'll watch the highlights later so that I can at least do a decent job of the recap when it gets to next week's pod. Now, obviously, I'm going to pay the 18 or $19. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be very excited to see what happens and see if there's a genuine uptick in performances. In terms of shout-outs, I would like to genuinely say thanks to Philippe Clement and his team for doing what they could do. Just once again, it's not, well, I was going to say it's not you, it's me, it's not you, it's us, but it kind of is them. We're not picking the right type of style of managers that give us the right type of style of longevity in terms of performance result and building a team and an ethos and a playing style that we would want to watch. So it just wasn't good enough, and you get what you get. When it's not good enough, you get sacked. So that's the way that it goes. But this one, for me, genuinely feels a wee bit more poignant for the club. And what I mean by that is we have a new CEO in place. He knows what he's doing. He's saying the right things. He's being consistent, and I think over the test of time that we'll look upon that as, yeah, you didn't say what I wanted you to say, which was I'm going to sack the manager immediately. But the things he'll be able to build on the things that he's been saying for quite some time. I think this one is more poignant for the players at the club. Yes, lots left us in the summer, but I think there are still lots left there that haven't demonstrated a genuine winning mentality, a winning demeanour, a winning personality, and more importantly, winning performances on the pitch. And I think it's time. And I probably said this, folks. I'm not going to go back and check it, but I probably said something similar to that when we brought in Philippe Clement, when we brought in Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and when we brought in Michael Beale. It's one of these things where I can imagine myself saying something similar to that to really genuinely build up this football club. So back to what I know for a fact I've said before, this is one of these things where if I was a manager out there, I would be absolutely salivating at the opportunity to come in and build this up. Obviously have a track record and maybe have some sort of history of maybe doing this elsewhere, but to go in and say this is as clean as a slate as you're likely to get, there's new owners coming in, there's an opportunity to be able to spend some money, we'll get some key marquee signings in, and then get that opportunity to move forward from there. So we'll need to see what that looks like. We need to see what Patrick Stewart and team are able to conjure up, and of course what that looks like in terms of the new investment team and whether they would have an input to that type and style of running of the club, or whether they're going to be a bit more hands-off. Who knows? I guess we'll see. Time will tell. I sure hope that we get what we need to get, because ultimately the club are genuinely killing the enthusiasm for being a Rangers football fan. I mean, obviously we're Rangers till we die, and we'll continue to support the club the way that we can and the way that we have been, actually. But it's very difficult being a Rangers fan right now, and it has been for quite some time. And I'm fed up saying to Leo, my son, it never used to be like this, because he just has no clue why I do what I do. And also to my love, Erin, she's kind of like nice and polite. And I'm thinking, this is not what it used to be. She's seen in her time, how many managers has she seen in the time that her and I have been together? We've been together for quite some time. My love, I don't remember how long, but swiftly moving on from there. In terms of another shout out, I did want to say something to the folks specifically that are on the NARSA WhatsApp group. There's some rules that we need. And the number one rule that we need, there's no discriminatory behaviour or discriminatory language or anything like that. We're not allowed that. That's not who we are, what we're doing. But the main one is, see if that mob are getting beat, you don't mention a thing about it, not one thing about it. And I'm not going to call anyone out here, Dave Shillinglaw, but you don't mention anything about that until the game is done, because you're going to then Gareth Lipka it, where he was like, yeah, look at this is great. And then they go on to win the game and everybody just gets a bit annoyed with you. Don't be a Gareth. Don't be a Dave. Don't do that. We do not talk about certain other teams' results until the results are done. I did get one other addition to this from Colin in Orlando saying, why don't you scroll up a wee bit before you put a post in, so that we don't need to keep rereading or rewatching the same posts or links that are put out there? It's been a bit of a frenzy over the last little while. Everybody has to give everybody a little bit more grace than we typically normally would, because we're a bit of an excitable bunch right now. Mostly not for the good reasons, but sometimes for some good reasons too. Quick shout out for the Melbourne City Loyal Rangers Supporters Club Culture Weekend, November 21st to 22nd. I'll put the details on, I'll leave the link on the details for the show notes for this week. No women's games this past week. They're in international break again, so nothing to report on that one. In terms of convention update, 107 days. And this time next week, I'm going to be saying it's 100 days to the convention. 107 days and 15 weeks until we go to Kissimmee in Osceola County in Florida. That's June the 12th to the 15th. And who knows, we might have Barry Ferguson and Alan McGregor and Billy Dodds and Neil McCann there just to give us a little bit of laldy. As I mentioned earlier there, we were on the LED displays for the second momentous, gargantuan, disappointing result, and we'll see whether we get back on there or not. I did have a meeting with the hotel last week, or the week before last actually. I was hoping to hear from the hotel last week about our immediate next steps in terms of where we're at, in terms of numbers and what that would look like logistically. I should hopefully have some more information to report about that later this week, or early, or on the podcast I should say, next week. But suffice to say that the rooms are out for sale. For booking, sorry, the tickets are out for booking as well, and we would sure appreciate your support, and we would absolutely love to see you there at the same time. So I'll say a wee bit more about the convention next week. I think it's going to be a bit of a poignant week for us. And just a quick reminder in other business that we are likely to have a number of positions open for the NARSA executive come annual general meeting time, which will be hosted at the convention in June. So that would be the 14th of June. We're going to have a VP, we're going to have a secretary, we're going to have a treasurer for sure, maybe a couple of the director positions. So if you have any opportunity or if you think you would have any opportunity to maybe come and help us, I would be more than delighted to have a conversation with you. Just another reminder to NARSA clubs specifically who have yet to pay their membership fees and or their first instalments of Rangers TV for the season, please get your finger out and get that done. That's completely offside that you haven't done that thus far. So let's get on that, folks. On the Gers guide for this week, I'm onto the communication section now. The communication has been all around everything that's happened and obviously everything that I've discussed thus far. So the Gers guide wasn't published, but there is no women's game to talk about. It's all about the manager. So here's what I think the Gers guide would say. Today there might be something about Saturday's game. Tomorrow, I imagine there will be a video, a Rangers TV video with Barry Ferguson if that doesn't come out later today. Tomorrow's also going to be the press conference for the Kelly game, so we'll get a chance to hear from the new interim manager for the first time. Typically a Tuesday is the loan review. Wednesday, of course, is the Kilmarnock versus Rangers game at Rugby Park. Thursday, Maybe there might be a breather from dramatic Rangers events. On Friday, there's the press conference for the Motherwell game, and on Saturday, the Motherwell game is happening. And I don't imagine there would be a whole lot happening on Sunday. And then next week is, of course, the European week. So you've got Barry Ferguson. I mean, who would have said to Barry Ferguson on Sunday morning, by the way, seeing 40 or seeing 13 or 12 or 11 or 13 days' time, you're going to be trying to outcoach Jose Mourinho in Turkey. I mean, talk about a wacky industry. The football industry truly is. But yeah, good luck to the team this week. We'll see what happens and see where it goes. Another quick reminder that the Rangers Review have put a very special offer of an entire year of membership for £5. Just £5. Background information, behind the scenes exclusives and such there for friends and family. I'll leave the code out there in terms of that. It would be great to get the boys some sign ups. I'm sure there's going to be lots of information coming out. It was kind of interesting last week, wasn't it, where the news broke about the potential investment in the Daily Record, and it wasn't through the Rangers Review. The Rangers Review have had some excellent exclusives over the last wee while here, but the Daily Record for some reason got that one first. I don't know if that was intentional or unintentional, but good to see that information is getting out in a certain way. I don't know who purposely put that out there or who leaked it or whatever that happens. But you know, when you've got a lot of people in the mix, you know, loose lips and all that sort of thing. And just a final reminder about the Rangers International Coaching Convention, the 3rd to the 6th of April, and I'll leave the link in there for that. Wow, what a week. That will do it for this week, my friends. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Please do share it with someone that you think might enjoy it. And I did have a bit of an issue last week trying to send the email out through my Hotmail. I just kept getting an error message saying we can't send it right now, send it again. So I sent the notification through our MailChimp, through our wider distribution. I might have to do that again today and going forward. So if you see it coming in a different way, you'll know why that is, but all the content is still the same. What a week, folks. Let's see what happens as the week progresses. And until next week, here's hoping we get 2 victories and a very positive start to Barry's tenure with us. Take care of yourself and all the very, very best. Follow.